Anybody remember what happens to Bane after Nightfall when he snaps Batman like a cheap matchstick?
The bat is broken!
Yeah, nobody usually does. When I bring up Bane, most people think of the Arkham Asylum jump scares and the roided out Joker that has super venom and all that stuff. Or the dumb brute from the Uma Thurman Poison Ivy monstrosity that was that movie. Ironically, that came out super recently compared to his comic debut, which makes that even more tragic and disappointing when you think about it. Now, because the animated movies just got announced, the trailers dropped and everything, and everybody's back on Nightfall is the greatest Batman story ever bandwagon and all that kind of stuff, I thought it would only be appropriate to jump into who Bane is, how he came to be, his origin, his design, and what really becomes of Bane after Nightfall, one of the biggest Batman stories ever, one of the biggest Batman events that's ever happened. And I'm doing this in this mask for as long as I can handle it. What I don't think most people realize when they talk about Bane is that Bane is actually a specifically designed character to match Batman in so many ways. He's meant to not just challenge him, but beat him. He's literally designed to do so. Bane is also one of the only Batman villains that has been written terribly inconsistently over the years since his debut because people just didn't know what to do with him. It's kind of incredible how much he changes depending on the creative team in the book. What nobody ever talks about is how Bane is literally the antithesis of Bruce Wayne, of Batman, without being bat themed or gimmicky. He is his own character with a driving force that is only fairly compared to Bruce's. A man born into tragedy, arguably more tragedy than Bruce's own story. Except Bane never got any of the good memories that came with Bruce's life or Bruce's wealth. Bane is born into a life sentence for which he did nothing to deserve. His mother is taken from him. His only friends are all criminals and horrible people, also in prison. He gets committed to solitary for murdering the first man to try and prey on him, to try to victimize him as a child. And Bane survives hell on earth prison conditions all throughout every formative moment of his life. His parents are all taken from him. No friends, no butler, only determination and dreams of his future self. And where Bane really begins is not just as that child in prison. Bane's story, his origin as the character that we know him as, really didn't start when he was born in the prison, but really when he was sent to general population after his mother died. That's when everything starts. A fight breaks out, and one of the prisoners actually tries to defend Kid Bane. And another prisoner, the one who wants to use Bane as horrible things, they get into a fight, and Bane gets pushed and shoved and falls over the railing, falling to the floor of the prison. Now, instead of dying right there, he falls into a coma. And as he basically dies in this coma, he also has this dream of a future version of himself, of grown up him, telling him that there's nothing that he can't do. He's got the blood of kings in him from his father. There's only one thing that stands in his way: fear. Fear manifested in the form of this colossal bat demon. He's haunted by these bats, and those are the only things in his way between him and success, him and a life of power. And then he violently wakes up from his coma, and everything's different. He gets right to work and finds the man that preyed on him and caused his fall, rips his nose ring out and kills him with it, I think. He at least kills him. He doesn't even try to hide it. He waits for the guards to find him in the prison. And as they take him away, he tells the warden that sent him to Gen Pop after his mother died that he actually spoke to his mother last night. She told Bane that they stoke a special fire for him in hell. And everyone hears Bane doing all of this. Everyone hears Bane telling him off as the warden drags him to solitary, or has him dragged to solitary. In his cell, the tide rises and Bane fights off waves of rats, crabs, drowning, and everything. But Bane murders his fear in his cell every night and becomes fear for everything else around him. Over the years, Bane disciplines himself into the vision of his future self from the coma. He sharpens his mind, mastering languages and absorbing every bit of knowledge he can find. He hones his body into the ultimate weapon for his goals. Nothing can stop Bane. He's just driven. He's driven by this sheer selfish progress. Bane is the definition of determination at this point. Without limitation, there's nothing in his way. He has nothing to lose and everything to gain the farther he goes. Later in life, another prisoner is sentenced to Bane's prison on Santa Prisca, and he's got stories and knowledge of the world beyond Peña. One day, Bane asks this other prisoner, known as Bird, he asks him to tell him more about Gotham City. Bird loves Gotham. It's the greatest city on Earth. So Bane asks, who rules Gotham? Bird says, no one gang or boss really runs the city, so I guess Batman runs it. That seals it for Bane. A real achievable goal linked to that fear, linked to that one thing that he saw in that dream in the Bat. A city of potential, a physical manifestation of what stands in Bane's way, and ultimate superiority, ultimate respect. That's what waits on the other side of it. Just as Bane has found his obsession and plans his goals, he becomes an unstoppable force in the prison, racking up an insane body count. The warden has no idea what to do with him, but there's also this experimental human trial program going on in the back of the prison, and it's burning through prisoners left and right. So the warden, the genius that he is, figures out a use for Bane, somebody who can't be stopped and won't be stopped. So they subject him to the trials, and he actually survives each round that they throw at him. And these trials, again, have killed so many people before Bane. The last guy literally had his heart explode from the stress of the drug that they're trying, of this Venom drug. Bane's followers that he's amassed because he's an unstoppable force, Bane's followers help supply him with a version of the drug, and Bane wills his vital signs low enough that the machines monitoring him think that he's dead. So the doctors all throw him out like they do with everybody at the prison. They throw him tied up to the sharks like they did with his mother. And Bane, in a way, dies again. But once he hits the water, he tears the cloth off and the stuff holding him and kills the sharks with his bare hands before reaching the beach. This guy does not need shark repellent. He goes back to the prison after tasting freedom for the very first time in his entire life. And he's so driven, he's still loyal to freeing his followers and pursuing his goals, who are only more loyal to him for actually returning to the prison once tasting freedom. Bane and his followers take a helicopter off the island, taking the warden prisoner with them to have leverage so they don't kill them so they can get out. He doesn't get rid of the warden without giving him a parting gift before leaving, tossing him out of the helicopter so that he doesn't have to die alone, Bane says. He tosses him out the helicopter into the sea with his childhood best friend, the teddy bear Osito, the same teddy bear that journeyed with Bane from birth into Gen Pop before his coma and everything. From there, Bane was heavily addicted to Venom. And so his crew, with their varying skills, some with electronics, some with pharmaceuticals, some with a little bit of this and a little bit of that, they help create the iconic tubes and wrist-mounted gauge to control the Venom supply so that Bane can use it on demand. Now, Bane, with his awesome mask and Venom tubes, is ready to embark on this next phase of his plan, to understand and master the Batman, so that he can take Gotham. Bane and his crew actually lay a trap by murdering some people so that Batman will be lured there so that Bane can study him. Bane has to study him. He has to master him so that he can eliminate. As Bane studies Batman, he is enamored by this no-killing rule that Batman seems to hold himself to, even putting himself at risk. And watching Batman save someone, Bane actually kills the guy that had a clean shot to kill Batman in the middle of saving this person. Bane and Batman get to talk, and he tells Batman he's going to scream his name and beg for mercy one day. But today's not that day. Batman asks him if that's a threat and tells Bane to get in line as he runs off. Bane tells his crew that Batman is Gotham City. And so once Bane understands everything about Batman, then and only then will he understand Gotham properly and take it for himself. Nobody else is to touch Batman, kill Batman, anything, until Bane is ready, and only Bane will do. And that's what launches Nightfall, Night Quest, and Night's End. That's all the lead up into it. Bane is specifically for this purpose. What nobody ever really talks about, in addition to Bane's actual origin and some of the more serious parts of it, is what happens after Nightfall, after Night's Quest. So Bane obviously breaks Bruce like a bad habit and then rules over Gotham for a hot minute. But Jean Paul, the Asbat demon with battering machine gun looking things on his arms, breaks Bane down and sends him off to Blackgate. All, of course, as Jean Paul starts to see ghosts and demons and blood on the wall like a biblical king going insane. Check out the What Everybody Gets Wrong About Nightfall video for more on that. But so after Nightfall, after the events of the Knight's Quest, Knight's End, and everything, Venom is taken from Bane, right? And Bane goes through insane withdrawal because they're not going to give him Venom while in prison because this is a nicer prison. And he goes through some prison yard power struggles. KG Beast kind of humiliates Bane for a minute. But once Bane is off Venom and clean, he rebuilds his life, redevotes his body to this sole purpose to match his mind. And of course, he breaks out because he is Bane, and that's kind of his shtick. He is a man of singular purpose, of determination. You got to always remember that when talking about Bane. But when he gets out and makes it back to Gotham, he finds out that Venom is being sold on the street. And Bane doesn't like that. Bane is a villain of purpose. Yes, he murders. Yes, he kills. Yes, he pillages and some other things. But he also has these like anti-hero type moments. Like you can almost reason with him in a way. He does respect things about Batman, and that makes him different. But so Bane goes on a hunt because people are getting addicted to Venom and traces down who's selling it, who's profiting off of this, who's running the show with the Venom. And he uses his Batman level intellect, his genius, to find that source and dismantle it. Which may sound familiar to some Arkham fans for some of the Easter eggs involving Bane and his teddy bear, especially when you see it in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. And then you see it in the display case in Arkham Knight, I believe. Batman and Bane sort of square up at a moment, too. Bane talks about how Venom altered his mind and how he hyperfixated on Batman as his enemy due to the trials and the drug, which kind of makes sense and kind of doesn't. Bane runs off and he's just kind of in the wind after that, but they do kind of have a peaceful agreement as the guy who broke his back and the guy who, should fight him. So Bane goes on this retracing his roots, self-discovery, self-exploration journey, right? And so his primary goal is to know who his father is. That's the missing piece that he wants to try to figure out. He stacks up some bodies on this journey, of course, including the priest that often visited his prison while he was growing up, and for some reason he ends him because he doesn't want anybody to know or find out anything about him. He's tying up his loose ends, I guess. But so in this process, he does find out the identities of some potential fathers for who he is. Bane finds out a few options that are actually traceable, one being a Swiss banker type guy who had ties to the Order of Saint Dumas, which is actually an interesting tie-in for this era of Batman. Later, Bane finds out that his father is actually Sir Edmund Dorrance, also known as King Snake, a mercenary, martial artist, expert, all-around Karate Kid looking villain.
You're a pushy little bastard, ain't you? But I like that. I like that.
Which is kind of hilarious, but kind of awesome at the same time. So in this initial search, though, for his father, Bane does run into the League of Assassins. And specifically, he has a lot of interaction with Talia al Ghul, and he kind of, falls in love with her because that's what everybody seems to do. Really doesn't take long for them to see some sort of value in each other for what they want in life. But as Bane falls for Talia, she becomes repulsed by him. He's at first a man of similar resolve, determination, and caliber to Batman. And of course, she loves Batman, or loves the idea of Batman. But as she finds out more about him, she actually realizes that he's missing what makes the detective such a catch. So Ra's opens his grounds, the library, to Bane. They have this whole welcoming thing. They actually let him live there for a while. And he occasionally does some work for the League as sort of a pit bull or a dog on a leash. All, of course, as the League and everybody is working on this world domination and population eradication plan at the time to release this virus to eliminate a large portion of the population. Bane learns of Raish's secrets to immortality with the intention to, of course, try to take them for himself. So that's his new plan and motivation. He continually tries to get Talia to fall in love with him after their one fling, but he does fail pretty much at every turn, with her getting more and more upset with him. While playing chess with Raish and learning as much as he can, Bane resorts to self-protective measures. Starts planning even more as he feels the walls closing in. Talia doesn't want him as much. Raish really never wanted him and does anything for his daughter, that kind of thing. And of course, Raish tries to throw Bane in a hole, in another hellish prison, because that's all people can really think to do with Bane instead of just trying to kill him. And of course, that works out really well, and Bane escapes and duels with Raish. And as he's about to lose his life, he plays his last card that he's been saving up, all in the background of everything. During one of his tasks for Raish and Talia, he actually kept one of the last pages of the document that they were searching for with the coordinates for what Raish needs. So, as he's got a sword to his throat, he plays this last card. He destroyed that page and committed it to his memory so Raish would have to keep him alive. And Raish, being a guy who loves this kind of creativity with keeping yourself alive, names him as his heir to wed his daughter, Talia, at some point when their plan succeeds. This then kicks off Batman Legacy, or the latter half of Batman Legacy, and they show down. There's a reveal where Bane has been posing as Ubu, Raish's like enforcer guy that's always with him, and wears the ceremonial mask and everything until they're flying away from Batman, Nightwing, and Robin. And Batman and Bane have a nice little reunion again on very different terms. Batman's actually healthy, he's actually fit again, he's ready for crime fighting life. And this to me is the full reunion for Batman and Bane that I kind of wish happened at the end of Night's End, or at the end of the Nightfall saga. But I guess it's only fitting for these two men to be involved with the same woman and world conquering sociopath immortal guy, because why not? It's these comics. What's interesting from here on, though, is that Bane and Batman have these sort of run-ins of varying severity with just the kind of the same formula over and over for a while, with the Batman Legacy encounters to be more severe for sure of all of them, but almost in a, Joker-esque way where it's Bane and Batman battle it out with a really intense battle of some kind, people bleeding, stakes are had, people usually killed, but the battle ends and the sea takes away Bane's beaten up body right before Batman can take him in or do anything. Every time, though, Bane sort of just narrowly escapes, he becomes this intelligent or potentially intelligent character that's reduced to occasionally getting extra villainous and wanting to be at the top of a powerful throne, and then Batman shows up, and it's kind of like the Scooby-Doo thing.
And I would have made millions if it hadn't been for you meddling kids.
But anytime Batman gets involved, he just knocks him back down. Sometimes gets him back to a prison. Bane breaks out of a prison because he's a master of prisons. Like right after Batman Legacy, Bane takes over a nuclear tanker, and when everyone thinks Raish and Talia are dead because of the end of Batman Legacy and everything, Bane kills one of the lieutenants of the League and takes his men in particular and does this whole thing because he's the named heir of Raish's and everybody has to follow him. So he tries to obliterate Gotham only to be stopped again. But all of these are the best of Bane's early life, and really until after this, until City of Bane, did he really get used properly again. And I know that runs kind of controversial or whatever, but I think that was the next best use of him. Because then in media, we got varying depictions of him. And like all the issues with Tom Hardy's Bane and The Dark Knight Rises and stuff aside, he does get points for being calculating and cunning. I just wish there was more him and less of everybody else, if that makes sense. But still really appreciate that depiction more, having gone back through the comics again just to refresh for this video. I really appreciate that a lot more. It's very hard to record a whole video in one of these. These things are not breathable on a heat wave in New York City. Shout out to an old friend for stoking the flame and reminding me that I haven't done a video on this yet. So Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.